from long time. Hello, the participants, the experts. Very warm welcome to you all. Let me start with our webinar proceedings. As we know that the School of Planning and Architecture Vijayawada is the centrally funded technical institution directly under the Ministry of Human Resource Development for the excellence in the field of planning and architecture. As you are aware, the central theme of the webinar today, Rethinking Cities, Resilient and Liveable Future. And also the sub-themes which are centrally around three major aspects concerned to the interest of the planners and designers today, which cut across the focused areas of epidemic assessment, living built environment and urban neighborhoods. And also to say the theme of the webinar is very well aligned with the proposed international conference on resilience and livable city planning during 7th and 10th October 2020 is organized by the School of Planning and Architecture Vijayawada. In this juncture, I would like to acknowledge the persons instrumental for the conduct of the webinar. Includes the pattern, the Dr. Professor Meenakshi Jain, Director, SPA Vijayawada, for her constant support and encouragement to all of us. And also the organizers of this webinar, Dr. Adi Narayana, the Dean Faculty Welfare and Head Department of Planning, and Dr. Ayan Kumar Teraftar, Dean Planning and Development and Associate Professor Department of Planning. Now, I would like to share a few points in relation to the context of the webinar in terms of the reality and its relevance to the field of architecture and planning. As we are all experienced the lockdown, which is almost, we are now in the day of 72. The world is experiencing two things: assessing the COVID-19 crisis, and also the second one is envisioning the recovery. So this is the two major tasks every country and nations and peoples the lower level also concerned about. To say a few aspects internationally, what is the thinking going on at the level of international organizations like COVID. The United Nations called the COVID-19 pandemic is the greatest test that we have faced since the formation of the United Nations. The pandemic is a development crisis. The cause and effect of the pandemic is not yet to be fully understood. These tensions are already shaping a new generation of inequalities, demand to enhance capabilities, the new necessities or essentials in the 21st century. So the focus is diverted towards creating capabilities and essentials to reconcile what is apparent today is the trade-off between not only the public health and the economic activity, but also would be to build resilience for the future shocks. The government of India, the Prime Minister said that today's situation in the world teaches the way forward is self-reliant India. It is a way ahead. The implications of COVID-19 as far as India is concerned, when we compare to the demographies of the world, and I was just going through some document and then find out that the volume of how to manage COVID in India, it is an enormous task managing it when it comes to understanding about the country of the Western developed countries, Europe plus USA and Brazil and Argentina. So it comes about more than 136 crore population. So it's a huge task for the government to see how we can manage. India is also right, as you know, it's a closed market economy now, and it's a great job to reopen the economy. Physical and social infrastructure such as transport, health, sanitation, education, all these sectors need reform. Correspondingly, we are to think in terms of rebuilding cities. We have to wait and look at for opportunities. On the other hand, the social contacts become essential to work, live, entertain, socialize, travel, and all walks of human life. Social distancing and physical mobility are the enabler as well as barrier, respectively, to all. What is the scale and how long and under what circumstances are essential questions towards rebuild spaces in our house, streets, neighborhoods, cities, and also the future cities becomes a challenge. Now, let me move on to the webinar proceedings. As I told in the beginning, and we have the main theme and sub-themes are 3. Let me first take this opportunity to invite the speaker. The sub-theme, Epidemic Risk Assessment and its implication on the city planning, will be presented by the expert, Dr. Mansingh D. Devadas. He was the Dean and Chairperson for School of Planning and School of Planning and Architecture, Anna University, Chennai, and he is also a member of the Board of Governors, the School of Planning and Architecture. He is having more than 3 decades of teaching, research, extension, and consultancy experience in his credit. Now let me request Dr. Mansingh sir to make your presentation. Please.
Thank you, Professor Razak. Good morning, everybody. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dr. Razak, Professor, and Dr. Adi Narayana, HOD of Planning, SP Vijayawada, for inviting me to this webinar. Today's presentation will have an overview of the present scenario of COVID-19 and its impact on people and issues in planning. Some basic understanding of the risk assessment is presented, and finally its implication on city planning. Over the past few years, emergent threats posed by the infectious and diseases has been occurring in increasing scale and frequency. So my topic for today is on epidemic risk assessment and its implication on city planning. Before I get into the topic, I just like to give some understanding on some of the related terms: pandemic, epidemic, endemic, and outbreak. What is it? A pandemic is an epidemic that is spread over multiple countries or continents, whereas an epidemic is a disease that affects large number of people within a country, population, and region. An outbreak is a greater than anticipated increase in number of endemic cases. If it is not controlled, an outbreak can become an epidemic. An endemic is something that belongs to a particular group of people or country. Just like to give an overview of the state of COVID-19. COVID-19 is pandemic, and now it has affected more than 5.5 lakhs, 55 lakhs people and almost about 1,44,651 cases, and are doubling every 13.1 days in India, and the death is around 4,170 as on 25th of May. In fact, of the cases, 70% are from 11 municipalities, according to the Ministry of Health of India. And if you look at the history of deadly plagues and epidemics and global pandemics, the big dots are, the ones. Hello? The big dots are. Can you hear me? Big dots are those who died, which are more than 1 million. And it has happened, if you can see from after 1300, the bubonic plague, which had a death of almost about 25 to 50 million. And you had Spanish flu in 1918, which had death, number of deaths were around 50 million. And we had HIV, which had a fatality of 32 plus million. And now we have this COVID, and as planners, we need to see how it impacts the urban planning. The Global Health Security Index measures the state of health security around the world. The index is composed of 6 categories: on prevention, detection and reporting, rapid response, health system, compliance with global norms, and risk assessment, risk environment. This is the basis for ranking global pandemic preparedness. So if you look at the world from the point of preparedness, UK and US are leading. India and China are somewhere in the middle of the preparedness. And it is noted that around 73% of the world's population has in countries that scored below 50%, 50 in the index, in the health security index. Now this is just a picture to show which are the countries the cases are increasing and which are the countries which are falling. The red or orange ones are the ones which are increasing. The blue ones are which are falling. So we are India in we are somewhere here, India. So it is still increasing. Now coming to the epidemic impact on urban planning laws. History reminds us that civilization and cities create the condition within which diseases rise and spread. Public health issues resulted in town planning laws. Pandemic can change important features of cities and civilization. In fact, a sanitary commission of 1864 resulted in public health engineering health department. In fact, we can say this is a starting point of town planning with the act which came into picture in London. Then we also had the Epidemic Diseases Act of 1897. That was the first one in India, soon after cholera. Then we have the Town Planning Act in India, which came around 1915 for Bombay. In fact, it came for 3 provisional states at that point of time, Chennai and Bengal, laying the guidelines for the health and city growth. Influences, it's basically these acts are meant to improve the lighting, ventilation, open spaces, parks, playground, density, setback, etc. All these are from the point of health and hygiene. Now the question is, will the pandemic or epidemic at hand go away? Whether it's going to be back to normal or new normal in the sense with social distance, work from home, and wearing mask, etc. Many countries are in the race to develop vaccine for COVID-19. So we do not know when all this, whether it will become normal or new normal. In any case, it has left a scar on the society. So in the context of any epidemic, cities and towns should be resilient to spring back to normal at the earliest. In fact, this is very important, how resilient the cities are from the point of any pandemic or epidemic. That's how the countries are measured, the resilient nature of each country. The new normal is to be considered for the planning of future towns and cities. Some of the most iconic development of urban planning and management, such as London Metropolitan Board works, as I was mentioning, mid-19th century. In fact, a new sanitary system was developed in response to the public health crisis, such as cholera outbreak. In fact, at that point of time, water and sewage got mixed in the pipes, and therefore there was immediately response to that by way of a new sanitation system. And the other major impact the epidemic has, the infectious disease like Spanish flu in 1918, about 100 years back in New York, resulted in the Central Park. In fact, that has become now the lung space of New York City. The digital infrastructure might be one of the means of sanitation of our time. In fact, as you may be aware, in India we have this Arogya Setu app, can tell you who is sick in your neighborhood, and people are making daily decisions based on the whole digital infrastructure. Modern planning and civil engineering were born out of the mid-century development of sanitation in response to the spread of malaria and cholera in cities. A very nice article on the pandemic and the future of urban city by Professor Michael Hooper from Harvard School of Design. According to him, he was saying that people have to pay a price being in city. In fact, he was trying to compare an illustration which was brought in 1908 by Vijayawada Bulletin. It showed that urban diseases were threatening the bucolic, that is the pleasant conditions of the suburban life, as you can see in the picture. So the urban area is infested with the diseases. And he makes a parallel of this in today's context. COVID-19 pandemic has raised many challenges, questions the planners and architects, policymakers around the issue of urban density. While researchers have spent decades making the case for density, there are worries that threat posed by the COVID virus will cause cities to be seen as sites of risk and for densification to fall out of favor. Indeed, many efforts to control the spread of virus have explicitly focused on strategies of de-densification. In fact, at Harvard, the undergrad students were sent home to reduce the density of people in the campus. Many planners, including planners in particular, have expressed the pandemic is over. This is a concern since as the implication of climate change have become apparent and cities are forced to address the energy and environmental cost associated with diffuse development and sprawl. Planners have viewed densification as a key strategy towards achieving sustainability goals. It's worried that momentum behind this compact cities, smart growth and density might be lost due to pandemic. In late medieval times, wealthy residents of European cities often retreated from cities during plagues. Following a similar pattern in the present COVID pandemic, news stories have reported instances of the wealthy fleeing cities for rural holiday properties or second homes. In fact, we have many such instances, in Tamil Nadu as well. Historically, for example, dense settlements have been associated with increased risk of disease. Scholars have argued that virtually all human infectious diseases due to the microorganisms grow out of the emergence of urbanism. As a result of the association between dense urban settlements and disease transmission, a phenomenon referred to in public health as the urban penalty. Dispersal from cities is sometimes viewed as an effective response to infectious disease outbreaks. In the face of historical and contemporary evidence that cities may be viewed as sites of increased risk from infectious diseases, are people's perceptions of density actually influenced by hygiene concerns? There needs to be a direct research into this question of hygiene and density, specifically in Indian context. Now, coming to the just some basic understanding on risk management. Urban disaster risk mitigation. Disaster may include earthquake, flood, tsunami, cyclone, fire, and include diseases. Mainstreaming disaster risk reduction in urban development policy and governance, and it should be backed by techno-legal framework and community-based urban risk management. I think these are three important aspects of urban disaster risk mitigation. The urban disaster risk reduction framework has something like this, which I borrowed from NIDM. Risk assessment and analysis. This is just a broad framework which could be applied for any kind of disaster. Risk analysis and assessment and analysis. When you're looking at it, hazards are the place where the kind of assets what we have. The vulnerability is very, very critical. How people can withstand such hazard is to be seen. The vulnerability. Capacity is another important thing. How far you are equipped to face hazards under such time. So in other words, when you have very good capacity building, or when you have enough capacity to face any hazard, then the risks are minimized. In other words, hazard multiplied by vulnerabilities divided by capacities results in risks. So when you say risk, here we are talking about when there is no capacity to face such a disaster, then there is a lot of risk involved in disaster. Let's close this now. Now we have about 5 stages of risk assessment, we have the hazard identification, hazard assessment, vulnerability and capacity assessment, risk assessment, and risk evaluation. Hazard identification basically just a minute. Stop. Hazard identification includes identifying the hazards from which an area is at risk. Hazard assessment includes estimating the likelihood of experiencing the hazards at a location or in a region, and studying the characteristics, frequency, and potential severity of the hazards. Vulnerability and capacity assessment basically includes determining or what are exposed to which hazards, where and how, why, the resources, the asset, skill, knowledge, and social relation available to reduce the impact of those hazards and cope with them. Risk estimation includes combining all the above steps to analyze the identified risks and the extent of their impact. Risk evaluation includes examining how important the risks are to different groups of people and prioritizing them for action. Now, aspects considered in risk assessment in the context of planning. The COVID-19 pandemic has already significantly altered urban life. The number of people moving around has dropped to considerably low levels. Work from home is a new normal, if feasible, in conjunction with social distancing and personal hygiene. A review on our risk assessment and counter planning measures are the need of the hour. Major planning measures in response to the risk assessment focus on access to multiple core services by everyone, towards a more equal city, decentralization and decongestion, decent and affordable housing. When we say affordable housing, it should have good ventilation and it should be well lit. And it should be decent, as that's what it means by decent. Integrated green parks and blue or water bodies in public spaces is required. Increase city and regional networking. In fact, what people say is that the networking will become even more important in the present day context. If some road is blocked, you should find another way to reach the destination. So this likelihood that the networking will keep increasing. More city level and granular data. The data is basic information that may be required for city planning. So to sum up whatever we have learned so far from the epidemic and its implication on city planning, we need to reconsider for the push for higher densities. Crowded housing increases contagion risks. People may long for suburban areas. Living preferences may change. There will be sprawl development of small towns. Everyone needs some access to outside space for mental health and exercise. We may consider for more parks, terraces, pedestrian parks, or longer benches from the point of social distancing or physical distancing. The design of new public spaces and redesign of existing public spaces need to consider social distancing and airborne diseases. For airborne diseases, walk to work or shop is appreciated during such time. Work from home from further distance from cities. It could happen also from the work may happen, in some other city from the office. Pandemic brought inequality. Everybody needs living income to keep safe. I think economic independence or economic empowerment is very much essential. Government may provide decent housing for all, not only for social justice reasons, but for public health, with lighting, good ventilation, and air movement. Walkable cities may emerge, much more work from home than what is today. Decline in redundant national and international travels, a move to produce more locally. Cities built around health centers is what is seen by some of the researchers. Growth in car travel and decline in public transport. Major changes in the mode of transport we use, with many public transport declining rapidly. New network may emerge. More direct research between density and hygiene required to clearly understand their impact in combating epidemics, more so in the context of India. In fact, this has been emphasized by many planners today, because as on today, there is no research being specifically done in this direction. Finally, more importantly, awareness has to be spread equally among all social classes. We must stay positive and united to face an unknown future. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you. In fact, I've tried to answer to some of the questions raised by the audience, which was given to me before the presentation. I hope I've tried to clarify some of the questions which was raised. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your giving an intensive picture about the epidemics and real situation across the world and very specific to India. And also you highlighted very well about the role of responsibilities of the stakeholders. And I'm really happy the participants also enjoyed from your eye-catching and mind-attracting illustrative presentation, sir. Now, we will move to the next sub-theme. As listed, you all aware the natural ventilation in built environment during and beyond COVID-19. So we have the expert speaker, Dr. Harimohan Pillai sir is with us. In brief, if I have to introduce the expert, he is an architect. He comes from Trichur in Kerala as a well-known, both as professional and an education field in terms of planning and architecture. To say that to his credit, he worked as a deputy project manager, architect in foreign building operations in the US Embassy in New Delhi, and also a private practitioner since 1983. Dr. Harimohan Pillai has a rich experience as a part of the academic institutions like JJ College of Architecture, working as a reader academics, as a principal in Pillai's College of Architecture, Navi Mumbai, and also the head MES School of Architecture. And also he is to visit as a guest faculty for many architecture and planning institutions in India since 2006. He got the privilege to serve Council of Architects as a member, as a UG Board of Studies, and also he is a member of School of Planning and Architecture Vijayawada 2019. Sir, I would like to request you to make your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Razak, Professor Adinarayana, and Professor Ayon for getting me into this session. I'm very thankful to you. Professor Monsing has already put before you the big picture of the city to have a resilient and livable future. Now, somehow in the last 2 months or close to 3 months, a big hypocrisy is revealed to all of us. The hypocrisy of the civilized world, I would say, because we have realized more affluent a person, less the person or family or people are connected with the nature. This is something which we have realized. in the last 2 or 3 months. Now, because we as human beings have ended up with a mask. We started with a fig leaf long ago, and today we have ended up with a mask, and we are walking around with the mask in the beautiful natural environment that we all have. Nature has given us. Uh, so natural ventilation in built environment during and beyond COVID is the topic that I thought I will discuss. Before I could start working on this, the organizers gave me a list of many questions. I mean, these questions are, already started arising in the minds of participants who are here. And I also have same questions. In fact, I have not found answers to all these questions which you have raised. I am also searching for answers. And maybe I will pose more questions here. And in fact, collectively, we all have to now sit together and work for a beyond COVID-19 situation and look for answers to this. Now look at this. Ventilation today means this in COVID times, unfortunately. We understand ventilation as this. We all know that natural ventilation is an essential process that ensures continuous rejuvenation of energy to live. Our body needs natural ventilation all the time. Our breathing is nothing but natural ventilation for our body system to maintain what is known as prana in our body. So that is why in yogasan, they say regulated breathing is called pranayama for healthy living. So when this ventilation is affected, the ventilation of our body is affected due to some reason, we have to put ourselves into a supporting system called the ventilator. So today ventilation means a ventilator, unfortunately. And this is what a single human being is subjected to today. In many hospitals across the world, data is already provided by Professor Monsing on what is happening across the world. And what is happening across the world? There are migrants everywhere, migrants in search of a comfortable place to continue rest of their life. In fact, what I find is that human beings are not becomes migrant little later. COVID is the fastest migrant in the world because COVID is riding a piggy riding a migrant and just gets a migrant as a host and travels all over the world. This is how COVID started migrating from one end of the world to the entire world, and it has made uh, us human beings migrate from one place to another in search of comfortable living. You can see two kinds of migrants in this set of images that I have created. One set of migrants belong to the affluent world. People who fly, people who live in air-conditioned spaces, people who live totally protected from the vagaries of nature or even the comforts which nature has already provided all of us. And the other set of migrants you can see here are people whom we call the have-nots. Look at them. They continue to live in the natural environment, but they are forced to put this mask, cutting them off from the very prana which is responsible for their life. This is amazing that we have created a bigger inequality in this world by way of creating two separate set of migrants, and they are all migrants running from one space to another. But that was because the ventilation in the human body is affected because of a small virus called COVID-19. What about natural ventilation in architecture or built form in which we reside, all of us individuals and families reside? See, the definition of natural ventilation in architecture has been inletting of outdoor air into a space to control indoor air quality by diluting and displacing indoor pollutants, control indoor temperature, humidity, and air motion to benefit thermal comfort. This is a modern day definition of natural ventilation, created with after maybe scientific study. But this was always known to human beings since ancient times, since the time human beings started making shelters, especially in the tropical world, because we all know that in the tropical world, it is next to impossible to survive without natural ventilation. And you can see this if you study architecture of the tropical world, which I have studied and I have done my research PhD into this particular aspect. Natural ventilation has been essential part of all vernacular and traditional built forms. You go to any village in India, You go to any vernacular or traditional built form, India specifically, because India has got multiple climate conditions, more tropical in nature. So in all these tropical hot humid climates, three different types of ventilation systems happen. The wind-driven ventilation, pressure-driven flow, and stack ventilation. We are aware of it. All of us architects who have studied this in detail as part of climatology are aware of it. Where has all this knowledge system, which is being there as part of our built forms, traditional built forms, gone today? Look at the kind of traditional built forms which we have created in our world, the kind of houses that breathe for humans to breathe. We only have to travel from the north of India to the south of India, from the east of India to the west of India. We will see 8 different climatic conditions and fascinating traditional breathing spaces in a kind of an architectural zoning of India, which I have tried to create here. Whether you go to Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, there are fascinating houses that breathe for humans who breathe. And this is all documented, very well known to all of us as architects. Ventilation in transition spaces. We already knew for centuries how to create this. This is a simple example of a small 200, 300-year-old house which still exists in a village in Kerala. Transitional airlock. When you come from outside, hot sunshine, before you enter the main household, you enter into a transitional airlock space where the air temperature suddenly comes down, well ventilated space, where you take rest for some time or where you relax and talk to your friends. And then you move into your inner spaces. Ventilation and transition spaces. We already knew about this. Ventilation at many levels. You see, the modern day architecture talks about only ventilation at fixed levels. We have fixed the levels of ventilation. We have something called a fixed sill level, fixed ventilator level, fixed beam bottom level, and so on. But if you look at traditional built forms, especially in our country, you will find ventilation at many levels, not necessarily at a fixed level. Here is an example of a wonderful ventilation which allows light as well as air at floor level. It is the floor, actually, this is the landing of a stair. You come up the stair and you reach a landing which is not only ventilated with light but air as well. And these kind of ventilators you find at each floor level in houses in Kerala, very old 200, 300-year-old houses in Kerala. I'm sure not only in Kerala, but I'm sure in many traditional households across India, you will find not a fixed level of ventilation, but varying levels of ventilation at different levels. Ventilation at work level. This is another fascinating example. We sit to work. So when we work, in the absence of active systems of ventilation in ancient times, and I say ancient times, just about 100 years ago, before air conditioning came into picture, we needed at work surface ventilation. Look at this fascinating detail of a house somewhere in Malappuram, where the window shutter becomes a table. You open the window shutter, sit on the table and work, and the window opens up to give you excellent ventilation while you work, sit or study at that table. Ventilation at roof level. So I was talking about ventilation at different levels in the built form, which ensures that stack is continuously removed, air is maintained fresh for breathing, and air continuously circulates in the built form to remove all stale air. Now this is stack level ventilation at roof level, where we keep storage equipments, etc. in the old ancient households, but wonderful ventilation at roof level. The volume of that space, which is the roof, also has ventilation to ensure that from the spaces below, living spaces below, there is continuous ventilation to upper levels and out into the open air. So all these things also work as a buffer to ensure temperature control in the spaces which are designed below these roof spaces. Ventilation as a built form statement. Kerala's traditional architecture, if you look at the built forms, they are actually a built form statement of wonderful ventilation in tropical climate. Though this is not a built form which was made in the ancient time, but this is inspired from ancient traditional architecture having wonderful ventilation, survive in naturally ventilated spaces. This is a question I'm asking. How do we find out whether COVID can survive or get destroyed in naturally ventilated spaces? For this, we need to do a survey. All these built forms, can anybody study to realize find out whether people who are living in these built forms or people who go back to their villages, migrants who are going back to their villages, when they are living in those built forms, does COVID survive there? This is a question to be asked. We know very well that COVID has become a migrant which just captures a host, especially all those hosts have been living in air-conditioned environment, getting treated in air-conditioned environment in hospitals, traveling in air-conditioned environments such as aircrafts, going through air-conditioned environment as shopping malls and offices. They are the hosts on which COVID survives. But can COVID survive in well-ventilated environment? This is something to be researched upon, and this is time. This is the time when we need to research. World over, large number of humans have been confining themselves to artificially ventilated and air-conditioned spaces. Our body itself is a classic example of passive system that continuously adjusts itself to changing temperature, humidity, and airflows in the natural environment. We adjust ourselves. When we come from sunshine to shadow, we adjust ourselves. Similarly, architecture spaces in ancient times have been created, very unique to each climatic zone, which provides necessary body comfort in each region. But active systems have standardized these living conditions. That is the problem. We have to accept that active systems which we employ while traveling in built forms, in work areas, these have standardized living conditions. And in the process, this standardized living conditions have killed not only the uniqueness of traditional living, traditional architecture of each region, but also the uniqueness of adjusting capacity of a human being. That is also killed. No capacity for a human being to adjust to the changing environmental conditions because of standardized living conditions created by active systems. There have been a lot of questions on active systems by many of the participants who have sent to me in advance, but I believe that active systems has only standardized living conditions, and it is high time we thought about these active systems, how to get rid of this active system and get back into the natural systems of living. In today's emergency situation of COVID pandemic, it is worth studying who or what kind of humans are most affected. Architecturally speaking, how can we do this as architects and planners? Study what kind of humans are most affected because of COVID. Can we create data based on their architectural background? Do they belong to the category of folks living and working in an environment dependent on active systems? Or the pandemic has struck people who live in natural surroundings, or will continue to strike people living in natural surroundings, or will continue to strike people living in actively supported environment? This is a question we have to ask. This time, I believe COVID time is ripe for immense amount of data which is today available to us to do research as architects and planners. And where is this data available? This data is now available. Live data is getting created day by day because of this COVID pandemic. Data which is available to architects and planners to figure out, to understand the relationship between health and human built environment. People know that a physician plays an important role in their health. We all know it. But sometimes building designers can play a very nearly equal role. This is something to be understood. Building designers such as architects and planners who bring together several buildings in a dense formation of what we call settlement or city, they also play an equally important role like a physician. And it is time, especially in these COVID times, that we started researching the role of architecture and planning in human health and longevity. Unless we research this, we will be nowhere, because we will just keep running from one kind of shelter to another in search of comfort conditions, especially from the point of view of longevity and health. So now, this is one tip which occurred to me, that we have this app which government has created and which has now been declared as an open source code. With an open source code declared only yesterday. To start researching, we need data. So why not add the nature of a person's living environment as part of Arogya Setu, so that we can compare the health conditions of the person living in the built environment, and the data that we collect from different parts of our experience by individuals and families living in different built environment. I'm sure it is possible to create through this open source code some aspects of built environment. If it can be fed into this app, that will become a wonderful set of big data available for architects and planners to look at how to create a better sustainable built environment to stay safe and stay healthy. I think I would end with this, and because if it is all true, why not go back? Let's open the windows to a better world. Let us not keep our windows shut. Let us just open the windows to a better world and live in ventilated environment. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope I was
Okay,
audible.
thank you so much, Dr. Hari, sir.
Was I audible and visible? I am not.
Yeah, it's okay. But let me appreciate your opening statement. You said very rightly that the previous speaker started with big and you started with small. It is very well appealed in your presentation with a lot of illustrative, geographical, and pictorial presentation, which really will be of a great food for thought for our planners and architects. And you highlighted very well in terms of the rich traditional design, what we admire in our tradition, in our early childhood. But now today we are moving on to modern and conventional way of living. But what is more important is that you very rightly say that it is also the concern of creating a livable future is not only with the health in terms of doctors and medical practitioners, but yes, very much true. It is an architect and planners to create a better house for living. Thank you so much for your enlightening presentation. I hope the audience will have a great takeoff from this. Okay, now let us move on to the next topic, sub-theme, which is of great importance in terms of the neighborhood living, much little bit beyond our homes, because which is also concerned today because we are all locked up in homes. Unfortunately, we couldn't even go to the park or our neighborhood shopping center with free mind and physically fit, but we are all, in a dress. Okay, then now the speaker with us is Architect Prasanna Desai sir is going to speak on the dynamics of neighborhood design towards cultural resilient and livable cities. Let me give a little bit introduction to our expert. The architect Prasanna Desai is a renowned architect, interior and urban design consultant. His professional office it's called PDA, established at Pune, Maharashtra since 1993. He is the professor and director of PVP College of Architecture, Pune, Maharashtra, as well as visiting professor for various colleges across India. Architect Prasanna is also a recipient of several awards for his housing projects, which is very well acknowledged and studied within the architecture and housing fraternities, especially his housing and slum rehabilitation projects. Recently, he has been appointed as a global mentor under city investments to innovate integrated sustained program, which is initiated by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, which is supported by the AFD and UU. The project is coordinated by the NIUA, supporting the SCM, the Smart Cities Mission, to build the capacity of the ULBs in especially the cities of Visakhapatnam and Amravati on social and organizational innovation in low-income settlements. Sir, it is your turn and you can please go ahead with your presentation. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and I think last 20 years we have gone into a different direction. More basically last 2 decades. So we have been doing certain kind of thing in last 2 decades, and many in the society have also been addressing, like Mr. Dr. Hari Mohan said, that we have been always constantly thinking, but why do we need really COVID to come back to the basic realities is the question. So I will put in some theory, I will put in some harsh realities, I will put in some simple solutions, because in the end I think we have to come to solutions, because like both the speakers showed, that the solutions are important. So one has been talking about for the last 2 decades, creating healthy, hygienic and human cities. That is the topic. And by people's participatory approach, Because finally, if you want to carve out the middle path, people are very, very important. Otherwise, people will not accept what we are trying to give them. Cities have been titled as, now today we are talking as rethinking cities, then we talk about sustainable cities, we talk about resilient, we talk about livable, and last 5 years we have been talking about smart cities. And cities look like this at one end of the pendulum. They look like this, and I'm not going to describe what all it goes into this. And the other end of the pendulum, cities were like this. Now the pendulum has swung too much. And is there a middle path is the question. It is like food. The food has also reached the one end of the pendulum. That the burger and pizzas are maybe the basic need of the day, not the needs of the day. We have got habitual to it. And on the other hand, it was the Indian thali, which had a very nutritious, healthy food habits and kept your body with a balanced meal. Our wearing has been simple like this, which is contextual to context, culture and climate. People in India wear what you see on the left hand side in certain regions, and what Harimohan showed buildings which are responsive to the regions. And people in West wear something like this. And are we trying to do this is the question which I've been raising for last almost a decade or two. And we have been talking about smart recently. But is smart being healthy is important? And the city needs to make healthy choices for healthy citizens. I think that is very critical. This is Michael Bloomberg, the 3 times mayor of the city of New York. And he was in Mumbai in 2015, where he made a statement, and these 3 statements are extremely critical. There is a false choice between the economic development and the environmental quality. It is easy to quantify economic growth, but how do you put a value to 2 more years of life? Look at this slide Dr. Harimohan showed, the ventilator, We're looking for that life, additional life. Yes, you need jobs, you need growth, you need a lot of things, but to say that you need them before your health is a question. I would say if you are dying and you might look back and say that wasn't a good decision. Now this is all said 4 years ago. If you don't focus on the environmental quality of life, you will not be able to fix the economic side. And if helping people live longer, happier lives isn't the purpose of the government, then I don't know what is. This is what Michael Bloomberg said. Many researchers, walkable cities reduce blood pressure and hypertension, walkable neighborhoods reduce diabetes risk, brisk walking better method than losing weight than going to a gym, scream study. And this is the fabric of our city. The city is obviously dense, but it has roads, oblique streets, and these are the arteries of the city. And they virtually have 15 to 20% of open spaces. Dr. Das in the beginning, Mansingh said that parks, etc., etc. Yes, they are there, but before you reach the park, you have the open spaces as the streets. And that is what are the arteries. And the arteries in this city are like a human body. So if you look at a neighborhood in particular, from the whole to the park, if we start moving, safe trees give you fresh air, walkable streets give you healthy habits, cycle-friendly streets give you healthy lifestyle, and safe neighborhood give you healthy. Just a minute, I missed my PPT because of something that I pressed. Just give me a sec. Yeah, healthy body. So safe neighborhoods gives you the healthy body. Healthy cities need safety, shade and society. That's how we put it. And this is the way our city looks like. On to the arteries, which are the conduits of the travel. These are studies, and this was death by breath almost 7 years ago, 2015. And before that 7 years ago, these were the studies in Delhi. Leave Delhi. We can't breathe. So what do you need? You need a ventilator. I don't think COVID really has put us onto the ventilator. We are already moving towards the ventilator. Landmark studies buried. Look at the children. This is our future. This is what has happened in the city. Sunita Narayan says government are still not serious enough about long-term solutions. And I only hope that now we will be very, very serious about long-term solutions. Mr. Ratan Tata just 2 months ago mentioned we must re-examine our norms for quality of life. Amic Penolosa has been saying the point to ponder is a developed country is not a place where poor have cars. It is where rich use the public transport. Obviously, there is a question now how to use the public transport, but still public transport will remain and should remain the backbone. Cities have been taken over by the motor vehicles and they need to come back to the people. This is the interesting note which Dr. Dinesh Mohan had put. What kind of a city do we want? Where my daughter and grandmother can walk and cross roads alone in the evening. Simple common sense, it is no rocket science. I have daily needs within walkable distance of home. And today the Kirana shop has become the most convenient shop for us to go and get stuff. Where I share space as equal citizen with others. Democratic space, equitable space. And where I am proud of my city and want to show others its beauty, quietness and civility. There is another research by Dr. Carlos Dora, which says if we consider as a street and residences on both sides, if vehicles are 2,000 vehicles per day, we have friends which is 3 and acquaintances 5.3. As the vehicles increase to 8,000, you reduce the friends to 1.3, acquaintances further gets reduced to 4.1. And if the vehicles are 16,000, the connection between community further reduces to 0.9 and 3.1. So what kind of cities do we want to plan for, or neighborhoods we want to plan for? That's what Fred Kant says. If you plan cities for car and traffic, you get cars and traffic, and pollution added to it, and congestion added to it. And if you plan cities for people and places, you get people and places. It is only Bhutan which talks about National Gross Happiness Index. I always say, and this is what has been said right by both the speakers, quality of life in the cities will improve only when one starts concentrating beyond the boundary. As an architect, we have been always within the boundary. We have a plot, we have an institution, we have a campus. But somewhere that beyond the boundary has become the most critical thing where we need to pay the attention. This is a master slide which has been talking about how to move people and not vehicles. And if we want to release space with social distancing, one will have to get space from the existing open spaces that we have, and streets being one of them. So this transition gives you more open space. Now, still better to have social distancing in the last one with the bicycles. We will not be occupying the whole street. And Britain recently has decided to spend some huge amount to convert the city into more bicycle friendly city. This pyramid is the old one, flying being at the top and walking at the bottom. Is the pyramid going to reverse? 2 months we saw flying at the bottom with complete stop and walking at the top. Will there be a balance? I am not saying that it has to entirely reverse, but I think the balance needs to be worked out. 3P is the solution. Pedal, pedestrian and public transport is the solution. Today it is COVID. After some time, something else will come. Healthy cities need safety. On the streets, you have hawkers, you have people, then it is safe because they are the cameras on the streets. And not these cameras which will make our cities safer. Indian cameras are the bottom right. Healthy cities need shade. This is the temperature difference. Again, no research is required. Common sense. The upper street with no trees, lower street with lots of trees. But trees remains the most slaughtered victim in the city. And the CO2 levels will change in case we don't save the green cover. You can have shade like this when you are walking because you need it. Or like this too. Look at this innovative idea at a junction in Pune where one has put 40 degrees temperature. Imagine if trees gave free Wi-Fi, we would all be planting like crazy. It is a pity that they only give us oxygen we breathe. I think an interesting quote which I picked up from somewhere. And the last one being healthy cities need society. And the people, where people need to interact. People need to buy both sides, maybe at the shop and maybe at the hawkers. How do you balance between the two, on the left and the right? Not at the edge when we sit in the car and go to the hawker. This is Istiklal Avenue in Istanbul, again a street which is for the people. It is not that this is new. This is from the brochures of most of the builders who have been designing the cities, that is neighborhoods or the new cities that have been coming. And the current neighborhood planning brochures look like this. Walk to work, leisure, sports, and look at the word walk to work, walk to school, which is put in red. Children skipping, hopping, jumping to school every day, pathways for cycling, walking and jogging. So this has been talked about for last 10 years, a decade, in all the brochures of these townships which are being built across the country everywhere. That means there is a belief in this retail, sports, nature, infrastructure, urban farm. I think this is where we have to go back. Walk to school concept. I think 80% of us at my age group, or maybe later than that also, walk to our own schools. And that is what a neighborhood should provide for. Our studies showed that we picked up these plans of all these townships and we tried to put it across and say, why can't a neighborhood be like this, where we can walk, where we can have the greenery, where we can have safety, where we can have shade. And this research took us to this project called Dasha to Disha. If Dasha, the current condition, is like this, then what is the direction? What is the Disha? I think finally we have to show the path. Disha is demonstration of integrated, safe, habitable, affordable solutions for the neighborhoods. How to change the Dasha is the question. Simple things: street lighting, garbage, trees, walking, cycling, public transport, handicap-friendly street vendors, kattas, open spaces and public spaces will lead to property value going up. Finally, commerce has to be in place, because that's economy. Safety will go up, health will go up, social interaction will go up, pollution will go down, and fuel consumption will also go down. This will lead to qualitative, economic, and environmental changes, thus making and creating healthy, hygienic, and habitable neighborhoods. 11 number bus, which we used to say right from our childhood, is walking and cycle to connect communities. It doesn't consume anything. Streets can get converted from what it is today, edge to edge tar with heat, radiations, no safety, to this. A little more going beyond, Michael Bloomberg did it in New York, the slide which the first speaker showed about the Manhattan Central Park. Taking away space from the road and giving it to the cyclist and people to sit right in the middle of the street by painting. And it doesn't cost much. It doesn't have to go in for a big tender. This is simple tactical urbanism. And the next one is a huge flyover in Seoul giving up away for a public space like this for people to improve their quality of life. We need to take major decisions and believe in this kind of a research. Our journey to demonstrate this started with a politician. There are simple things where we said that if you are doing something on the street, let us just do it right away with chalk marking. Discussion with people, and upper slide and the lower slide is the change. And this is what we gave the neighborhood. Now this is only in a neighborhood which is some 9 streets within a place called Aun. And this is the way people used it for years or are using it for years. And that's what gets in the quality of life. And that's the feedback from the people, not only the middle class, but also the workers, but also the children and toddlers and their mothers. Taking it ahead, one started streets for people, by the people, and one thought that one must go from a street to a neighborhood. And did some proposals, put it up in the public domain on the street in discussion with the people. A meeting on the street, coming out with a resolution saying that the cities or the neighborhood should be like this. This is almost 10 years ago. And with many NGOs, students of School of Planning and Architecture and the office, and there comes for the people, by the people. All this I am saying, if it is not supported by the people, if we don't do a bottom-up approach, top-down approach will never help. And the third stage came in with the title Smart City, which we have always apprehension on. Why smart? Why not healthy? And we moved to a neighborhood and picked up these 9 streets to create an environment. And we said, healthy Aun, this is in Marathi, healthy Aun is the place, Ata Aple Angan, now your courtyard. Healthy Aun is your courtyard, and take care of your courtyard. And what does healthy mean? Habits, ecology, amenities, lifestyle, technology, heritage, and above all, you. This you is very important. And then lot of invites, sort of posters, lot of things, and 7 days from 8th October to 15th October, one closed the street and put it for the people without vehicles. And this is what happened. And this is live. People playing badminton and stapu on the street. This happens weekend at what is called as certain things at morning hours on Sundays, but this is for 7 days. And this is the response, right from the toddler to the senior citizens. And we had a neighborhood shuttle service which also worked well. So you don't take out car within your neighborhood for 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer. Use this shuttle, which is called Udan. The process of implementation of this project started with discuss, design and demonstrate, with many points which were to be taken in. Walkability and universal accessibility being the one at the topmost priority. Take care of making a street walkable, universal accessible, which can help. One can rolling the bags, getting the prams back and getting a luggage trolley so that the shorter trips are reduced and I can carry my 1 kilo potato, onion, atta, dal in this bag and don't have to take out a car while traveling half a kilometer to my shop or maybe 1 kilometer if the footpaths are at one level. And that is what one proposed. Cycle, 3 levels of cycle, dedicated cycle track, painted cycle track and calming measures. This is what gave the cycle network, which was implemented in this neighborhood to a certain extent, and that's how the street would look like. Pune bicycle plan is also something which has been submitted and I hope it will come through, and more so now after this situation, that bicycle will be put in on the top priority for everything. Hawkers and vendors, eyes on the street, to be accommodated on a street at the edge. How do you accommodate them? Is give them marked spaces and say that this is your space, you be here. And collect, as per the vendor's policy, certain token registration. Same happens in a mall inside. If you can see that bottom corner of the slide, bottom slide, you can see that cafe, coffee day or something marked with the tiles over there that this is your space, you will be here and you will pay some rent. Why not the same happening on the street? And that is the next one being parking policy, organize parking parallel and also collect parking charges. Inclined parking is a hazard and a parallel parking is a safety. So it is all simple logic put into the street and the neighborhood level. Public transportation, the shuttle Udan, which was conceived, you have these shuttles of different colors moving around within the neighborhood. So you don't take out the car when you are traveling within 1 or 2 kilometers. This is not a public transport at a larger level. This is at the micro level and it looks like something like this. So you have the green, yellow, red. Design proposals at this particular street were simple. You had a street, you had the footpath and you had the front margin of the shops, which is in yellow. We convinced the shopkeepers that give you a front margin so that we can have wider footpaths. And they agreed. And this yellow was converted right till the property edge. And what is this earlier was conceived to be converted into these kind of images. Public discussions are absolutely must. 3 stages of public discussion, large at the auditorium level like this, smaller at the shop level, meeting room level, and the final discussion with raising hands that yes, we are in. When you have the public support, you can then go ahead with. And obviously the political support. The process starts with the 18 elements which are there. The first is a simple raised pedestrian crossing as a substitute to speed breakers, controlling the speed. Just have the corbel before the raised pedestrian crossing and reduce the speed of the vehicle. This is directly with design and architects need to do this. So the car speed reduces before one comes to the raised pedestrian crossing. Median or divider. We have the concrete medians, it's like this. Obviously it takes a little time to grow, but we could manage it. There is a grill in between so that before this gets grown, fully grown, you cannot cross. So there is a chain link in between. Bollards, which normally look like this, which are made of stainless steel and which can be always stolen, converted into concrete bollards. Tree gratings, which are none there, but which is all there at Singapore, Amsterdam, Tokyo, London, simply put it there and it is there in all the places. Sittings are like this, where the trees are choked to death. I must say, there is no oxygen, there is no earth. Why can't they be given dignity and given seating around with the natural stone, which becomes sitting for people around? On this street that we were doing, there were some 35 species, and all the trees, which were around 100, were saved, not a single tree cut down. Feeder pillars, the need and the reality. These feeder pillars are converted into boxes like this with artwork, so that they become part of the urban scape where people are spending time. Parallel parking being put in, and parking with electronic sensors, though we have not been able to do it, so that we know that in this street 146 car parks are available, 13 are right now available for you. So if this could happen, that is what technology is all about. Cycle lane, painted cycle lane and cycles on hire, putting this network into a cycle friendly environment. Entry and exit where you have to do constantly up and down on a footpath come to a one level so that you don't do up and down. And that is how you turn your vehicle inside conveniently by raising 4 inches at the same level. Dustbin so that you don't litter all around. Again, health of the city, health of the neighborhood. Signages at the right place at the soft areas so that you don't drill anywhere onto the concrete or footpaths which are already done. And the signages which guide the people. Universal accessibility has brought people back onto the footpath because they are at the same level and the results are evident. This is for universal accessibility. Bags have started rolling on these streets and the prams are back. And I hope the luggage trolley soon will be there. Lighting to make it safe on the wider footpath under the tree. The politician was very worried. He said that this is too wide a footpath and there will be problems here if you don't well lit it. So obviously we have to provide for it, and that is how it looks in the evening time also. Art and sculpture by Pune Binale Foundation. Artwork from junk put together on the street. Lido and games on the snakes and ladder on the street. Know your trees, because we had some 36 species. Every tree has a knowledge base like this, so a botany class can be conducted. Parents on the street, if somebody has gone inside shopping, the kid can watch this. And I think I also need to know a lot about botany of the trees. If I am on the street, I will be able to do it. So it's a running museum on the street itself. Urban lounge is a toilet which blocks always right on the footpath. Can we slide it and make a sleek toilet along with the walking realm? And a bus stop which also is, sorry, I think it jumped, which is blocking the footpath, comes as a sleek bus stop. Urban design of gates which look all different. We were told that why don't you remove these gates, they don't look like, make a similar ones. This is sustainability. Why should you throw it? Let us do and put gates into a similar order by painting them black and putting signages on that. A simple urban design intervention like this. Street ambience finally looks like this. And being wide enough, I think it will take care of all social distancing. When you are chatting also, you are 2 meters away. And that's the urban youth on the street. And I think we need to plan our cities for this generation. And they are the hope, the before and afters. And this is the condition of all our cities, and particularly the neighborhoods. This is the before and this is the after. It was only a persuasion with the shopkeepers that let us have a uniform thing and give us your front boundaries. And they readily gave that. And each and every tree saved, tree given the dignity so that it has the soil and it has the water, because so that it will give us oxygen and we don't have to be on the ventilator. That is the realm where we have the open gym right in the public realm when you have the width of the footpath available. And believe me, the politician's role here meant a lot. When he got this equipment, he asked us where to put. So we clustered them around and not along the footpath on a linear manner. Youngsters enjoying the mini amphitheater or a space sitting along with this huge people tree, and above all, our senior citizens enjoying and breathing in open and socializing. That makes what is the health. So the project Disha is data collection, design, discuss and then demonstrate. And we always say And I've been saying that the depth of the democracy is decided by the width of the footpath in the city. That's our team. Anybody wants to see what kind of work we have been trying to do can just click this image and move on to our Instagram and Facebook page. And as I started in the beginning saying, designing beyond the boundary with people participatory approach is the only key for the future, because we need to plan for the future that we are sustainable forever. The current situation in COVID shows the street like this. Greenery has gone multifold, I don't have to tell you this. And it also shows a bougainvillea right in the center of it. And I think this is the hope. This is the hope with which I would like to end. And the learnings with the COVID have been that health is at the topmost priority, whatever we do. Home is important. Hygiene is critical. Habits need to change. A holistic approach is required. Hobbies need to come back. Help is to be extended. Empathy for all. We need to create spaces so that we are happy. And the last one is hope is what is very, very important. And there is a hope. There is a learning. And I am confident, we are confident, and I'm sure everybody is confident that there will be a new era to start with from these last 2 months of whatever we have learned. Thank you, and thanks for the patient hearing.
Okay, thank you so much for your enlightened presentation, Architect Prasanna Desai sir. I really admire that you are taken last 30 minutes, our audience from the house, out of the house into the street and the neighborhood, and it is a very pleasant journey of our, I hope all our participants would have enjoyed the journey of moving around the city in the lockdown stage, everybody at home. And that is very illustrative presentation, which I would like to highlight 1 or 2 points, very important, which I like it. The comparison which you made between the human body and the circulation system, as well as the city, as a city where the circulation system is very important, is an excellent comparison, which is important today because we look at the health point of view. When you are sick, we go to the doctor and get everything is cleared. But what's happening in the city? The people are moving towards different, satisfaction-oriented mobility travel, but the circulation system is not to that extent where they are happy that. So it's like they're connecting your human health to the city health. It is very admiring. And also I see that, I also like that your comparison of the reverse form of the traffic pyramid, which I always use in my class. I tell them we are going backwards because every country and the planners are trying to say that we will go for walkability and cycle. That is what very well displayed in the in the diagram, which I admire very much. I tell all my students this is what we are going about. We are going backwards. And also the very important element of your enlightened speech, which is giving really orientation to the topic where we are concerned about how to create a livable future. So thank you so much for you for wonderful time, which I wish all our audience will also appreciate. Okay, now we have left some time. So I apologize to our audience, and we are not opening to audience for crosstalk because if I have to tell you that we have got more than about 400 questions. Sir, you can give a response to the questions.
Yeah, that disaster epidemic act that came into India. The first one I just mentioned in 1897, and many questions were revolving around the density. Whether how do you approach to the density for the existing cities as well as for the newer ones. See, for the existing cities, I think to start with, if the same condition continues and we are going to have a new normal, then probably the first thing what you need to do is to freeze the development and encourage strongly the suburban, development, and probably to encourage, people to move to the smaller towns. I think that should be one of the way what you can do. And of course, there are other options also available for the cities. We can promote vertical development provided with minimum footprint, but efficient vertical, system and infrastructure. And in fact, these, especially in housing, we need to look at providing, as I meant, decent housing, not just, cram, housing that has been now built by most of the, government departments. So I think, you need a different kind of approach to housing to start with little more, of terraces and maybe, good ventilation, lighting, and all that should be the, important aspect of these housing. In fact, of course, I just mentioned that, we need to encourage more work if the same thing continues, more and more of, work from home than what is today. This may call for certain, policy decisions on staggering the timing and shifts and so on and so forth. So these were some of the, answers for many of the questions, because there were a lot of repetition of questions, which I came across. Regarding the density, I think, as I was mentioning in my paper, de-densification or, reducing the density may go against the compact cities, which the sustainable approach demands. So we need to really take a call on that, as the days go by, depending on how we are going. But this will be in, conflict with the sustainable approach. But in any case, the density is very important, and as was told in the report also that nearly 70% of the cases, especially in this COVID, has happened in the urban areas. The urbanization, all that, resulting in crowding and lack of adequate ventilation, so on and so forth. So I think this also needs to be looked into. Probably we may have to wait and see, for giving any clear-cut, direction on this. But already research are going on, and we need to see the relationship between the hygiene and the density, the study, which, I just was browsing through any such research has been done on that, but unfortunately not many have been done. And this has to be with reference to COVID, because, the hygiene requirement for one disease may be different, cholera for that matter, MERS or SARS or any other disease, will be totally different from the present one. So we need to take a call based on the current situation, and we may have to wait for some more time to come out with any clear direction on that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Now maybe I will ask our second expert, Dr. Harimohan Pillai, sir. You can give a response to the questions.
Yes, sir. See, I also got many questions. Most of the questions were questions which I was asking myself. So I was trying to seek answers by way of my presentation to many of those questions which I saw. But two questions stand out from among the participants. One question was by Sthiti Parida, and she asked, how are we going to filter the air coming into the living space once a virus becomes airborne? That appeared to be a very interesting question, because as of now we understand the virus, COVID virus, to be transmitting because of touch and and so on. But once the virus becomes airborne, how are we going to filter the air? I mean, if it is living in natural air conditioned environment, how is it going natural ventilated environment? Now, this is a wonderful question. Only nature can find solution to this. You know, our nostrils, they have a filtering mechanism. Our nostrils have a filtering mechanism. We keep away so many other viruses or other infecting minute creatures for our system. Nature has provided us with that power through breathing. But then if this kind of COVID kind of situation persists, I don't know, it's a science fiction kind of situation where maybe in future our nose will grow in a different manner. If human beings have to survive forever, nature will find a way of providing our immune systems different, you know, uh, visual aesthetic altogether, our face and our systems. I don't know. The second question, which came from Mr. N. Ramalingam, about psychological ventilation versus physiological ventilation. This also is very, very interesting question. Psychological ventilation versus physiological ventilation. I was talking all about physiological ventilation. Can't do all physiological ventilation in the environment. Psychological ventilation depends entirely on the human race through the conditions which we create for living in the environment through design. Now, we have to look at our past and wonder how our ancestors lived psychologically. What was their psyche when they lived in the ancient times without any active system of ventilation or active systems of living comfort conditions? Were they happy? They, as I believe, barring some cases of diseases, they all had a wonderful life, long life. They had a very healthy life. But do we have a healthy life the way our ancestors had a healthy life? So physiological ventilation had always supported psychological ventilation in ancient. This is what I believe in. Rather, I understand by looking at the history of it. But in future, we are directly affected psychologically because of the problem of the moment we see a picture or a video of a person suffering today, we are psychologically affected. So
So
we have to
Dr.
find a solution.
Dr. Haribol sir, can you keep the speaker very close by?
Yeah, it is very close. Can you hear me?
Please, yeah.
Yeah, so psychological ventilation versus physiological ventilation will depend entirely on how he manage our designed environment physiologically. That is, comfort conditions for our physiology, how we create that. If once we are happy in that environment, naturally there will be a psychological ventilation in the form of happiness, if I can term like that. The psychological ventilation is nothing but expression of happiness in our living environment. That is possible only if we design our living environment for physiological comforts. Thank you. All other questions are my own questions. They are all, I have tried to attend to most of the answer, most of them using some images of traditional built forms, ventilation in traditional built form, etc. And more, if possible, I could answer if they could mail me directly or if that contact can be given, because we are running short of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your good response. And now I will move on to the third expert. Can you please give your response, sir, to the audience questions? Architect Prasanna, sir.
I have picked up two questions. One is Ritu Deshmukh is making a statement saying Indian traditional cities offer wonderful solutions for neighborhood design, making them culturally resilient and livable. Why do we not learn from this living heritage? Why are we always looking towards the West for? I have no answer to that. And what you are saying is absolutely right and correct. But I have a worry. I showed you Jaisalmer, Jodhpur. I said it is dense. Only thing it doesn't do is your car doesn't come to your
section to hold on the question answers, and we know that there are many questions in everybody's mind, and we are all planners and architects trying to look for answers. But we know that within the limited time, whatever the response given by our experts are very valid, and will carry the message. Whatever possible way we can do that in our own little, activities at our institutions. So first, first, and this is way the proceedings of the webinar, and then we have come to the end part of the session, where I would like to highlight some of the points, whatever said by our experts. Very illustrative and represented from all over the world and locally at what is happening in our house and streets have been presented to our beautiful audience. But I have just read about a few days ago one of the very important document published by the World Economic Forum. They're trying to say the particular situation of COVID-19, whatever little smaller micro level decisions, but which should be packed up with policy change, which is very much required, and also how we are, experiencing towards compact climate change and creating livable cities. It is economy, it is environment. So how to rebuild after COVID-19? There is a range from installing technology, maybe we're talking about public transport, to home work, or even today we're talking about home education. So there, the point is to talk about this planning and design solutions, which we can say about what is the importance given by many cities across the world, London, New York, Barcelona, Milan. Everybody is talking about how to make the public transport system and giving more importance to the pedestrian, switching more road space to non-motorized travel, which is not only for easy mobility for the people, but also we are concerned about saving energy as well as pollution, reduce the pollution. Also, I see that the report suggests now we are having many gas stations in the cities, but the cities in India, in other countries, in India also, we are now transforming our interest towards charging stations where we can operate electronic vehicles, where it can reduce the pollution and other problems related to the mobility. And the third point is highlighted in the report is about clear public transport. Get people out of car. So how we can make the people maybe car-less day or car-less travel, where we can try for another mode of transport. And also they highlight, the report highlights the fourth point is about the climate resilient infrastructure. It's the part of the global water program by the World Resource Institute. So maybe they are trying to say how we can build sea walls, spreading another natural calamity. More importantly, the planning and design solution highlights about planting more trees. One of the effort is made by the government of Pakistan, playing more about 63,000 out of work laborers to plant trees, saplings, as a part of the broader project 10 billion tree tsunami, rebuild depleted forest. They call it provide virus era income to poor. It's a smaller effort. It was also in US, they are planning to create 150,000 jobs. And the technology point of view, the report says that keep working from home, maintaining social distancing, which can ease pressure on overload public transport system. And plan for virtual meetings, effective than gathering physically. And install fiber optic, broadband and 5G towards digital future. And apart from technology, then the report is trying to give more focus on the welfare, the social aspect. They expand the social safety nets. We know we are struggling to help our economically vulnerable people. So how we can strengthen the system now to move forward to give support. And the last point, which is highlighted in the report, is about tax, economic system, economic aspect of it. They're trying to say that rise fuel, fossil fuel tax, shift to clear energy, remove subsidies from oil, gas, and coal. So this is something which I am really look at. It's a policy level measures, as well as we have to think in terms of how our experts are talking about that, how to take care of our home and street and cities, very important. But before I close, I would like to also tell our valuable participants, as I told in the beginning, that we are also having an international conference on resilient, livable and city planning, which is going to take place in the month of October. And then we also have the gate open. You can submit your abstracts till 31st of this month and take opportunity to participate in this one. Will be more a broader platform where we will be interacting with the planners and architects. So before my concluding part, I just want to highlight 2 points. One is small scale, quick and affordable changes at level of house, street and neighborhood and city planning and design can generate large impact. It is appropriate to say that small start, but for big impact. Also, along the science and technology, we must build communities, support and collective action. People know how to use space and places at different levels at house, street and neighborhood and city. But it is the responsibility of the planners and designers to believe this and create the house, street and our cities. So before I end, I would like to say a few lines, what we are all got an opportunity to listen to the experts and what's happening, because it's a very short time, about more than 120 minutes we spent to listen to the experts, come from different parts of the country, and you know that the participants, the experts from Mumbai and Pune and Chennai and Kerala, which we are experiencing about this COVID-19, is one of the 3 important states with good practices, and the world level people talking about what's happening in India. So before I end, I say that if you wait for happy moments, you will wait forever. But if you start believing that you are happy, you will be happy forever. That's life. So be positive, do good, stay safety. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Professor Razak.
Thank you, Professor
Nice
Razak.
seeing you all, Professor Prasanna and Professor Hariman.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you. At
Nice
least
to
in the
see,
virtual world, we have met again after.
Yeah, I think I am seeing you after very many years.
I know. Even Prasanna sir, after a long time we are meeting.
Time.
Great to see
Yeah,
you.
nicely, yeah.
We'll keep in touch.
In Bangalore, I think 2 years ago, we were together on some.
Yes.
Yes.
One COA work, yeah. Correct.
Excellent data, Dr. Mohan. Very good. You know, your whole research.
Only the
Only after
The audio is
great. So let us connect sometime. And
yeah. Okay.
Razak, thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Professor Razak. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.